Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Wednesday, the 5th of May. Today, I would like to talk to you a little bit about yesterday's announcement by Premier Kenney, but also about a Zoom conversation I was able to watch. It was more a presentation than a participation last evening regarding the Truth and Reconciliation Committee and Bill C-15. So today I'd like to talk to you basically about government action and how we are called as Christians to get involved. As you may know, last evening at 6 o'clock our time, Mountain Time, Premier Kenney, the Premier for Alberta, got up and announced some stricter lockdown instructions. We're not really locked down, but churches are closed. They are not closed. Churches are restricted to a maximum of 15 people to worship. Funerals is topped at 10. Outdoor gatherings are topped at 5, with an encouragement to really make sure that those outdoor gatherings of 5 people are limited to only 2 sort of bubbles, 2 family groups. Stores are, I think, they've been lowered to something like 10%. And with a minimum of 5 people present. So restaurants will no longer be able to have the outdoor dining on their patios, but will have delivery and takeout only. Personal services are going to be closed. Kids are going back to online learning for a few weeks. And except for the online learning, which they're hoping to regain after, go back into schools after the long weekend, on the 24th of May weekend, we're looking at everything sort of happening for another 3 weeks, so pretty much the end of May. I know there are a lot of people who are frustrated about more lockdowns, but we should be actually pleased. As citizens of this province, as citizens of Canada, as Christians, for those of us who are, this is a step in the right direction. I wonder how seriously it will be taken, but it is a step in the right direction. If we all just stayed home, if we didn't see anybody outside of our own family houses, and we all worked from home if we could, and for those who have to work, to go to work, we're able to maintain wearing masks or shields, or maintaining the 6 feet distance and all of those things, we would be able to get this virus under control because it wouldn't be able to spread. And the only way that we can stop it from spreading is if we don't get within close proximity of each other. It's as simple as it can get. So we need to take this seriously, and I am glad that Premier Kenney finally stood up. I know there are people who are frustrated because he made the announcement but didn't take any questions. Maybe that's simply for his health. Maybe he just needed, some time to be able to make those announcements and let people sit with them. My dad was a hockey coach, and he always had a 24-hour rule. If somebody if a player or a parent had a problem with a decision he made as the coach from practice or a game, he always told them that they had to wait 24 hours, and then he'd be willing to sit down and talk to them about it completely, no problem. But the idea being that in 24 hours, you have time to calm down. You have time to take a look at the whole circumstance and say, okay, so in this case, my son was benched. I didn't see him do anything wrong. I don't know what happened. But the coach is, he's a real bum, and he benched my kid. There's no reason. My child is perfect. And within 24 hours, if you wait 24 hours, then you have opportunity to calm down and not be dealing with emotion from the moment. And you have a chance to really, talk to your child and find out what happened. And maybe you find out what the coach is going to tell you is that, your kid told the coach to bug off or something, or there was a fight on the bench, or maybe the child was hurt. It wasn't benched after all. He was simply not playing because he needed some time off. But that 24 hours gives everybody a cooling down period so that the questions we ask and the statements we make can be made in a genteel, or at least a less hostile way. We've had time to think about what we're going to say and prepare for what we might hear. And so I think maybe Premier Kenney, by sort of bucking the trend and making an announcement without allowing questions, has allowed everybody the chance to sort of to really think about what he said and then come up with a good question. So we'll see what happens today. Regardless of my personal feelings about any of the politicians in our country, we need to pray for them. We need to be aware of who they are and what they're doing, and that the fact that at the heart of it, I have to believe that they believe they are doing the best that they can. There might be outside influences, there might be other ulterior motives, but I have to believe that they wouldn't get into this line of work if they didn't truly believe that they could help our communities. The other thing I'd like to talk to you briefly about this morning is the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the ongoing work of the TRC's resolutions that the Canadian government and churches across the country have agreed to try to work toward. And that work includes the passing of Bill C-15. So last night I was I had the blessing of being able to listen in, to be one of close to 1,000 people, particularly faith leaders, who were participating in a discussion about the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and Bill C-15. And the speakers were Murray Sinclair, who is a former senator, Murray Wilson, and Chief Wilton Willie Littlechild. And they were commissioners on the Truth and Reconciliation Committee as well. And they talked about Bill C-15. They said this is not merely about laws for government, but it also about how all Canadians are expected to learn and change how we function, secular and faith communities. It takes political courage, it takes moral courage, and it takes sacred responsibility. So essentially what Bill C-15 is saying is to the government is that you need to, as a government, we are willing, if we pass this bill, we are willing to acknowledge that we signed on to the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Sometimes it looks like it says UN UNDRIP, that's the initials. And that by doing so, with Bill C-15, it means that we're going to go back and take a close look at all of our laws that are on the books and make sure that they are in compliance with our declaration, our signing of that declaration. It's the same thing we do in Churchland. Whenever we make a new motion or change a canon at Synod, change a rule or a policy, then part of the follow-up to that change is we need to go back through all of the other rules and policies we have and make sure they're all in line with that. So for instance, when we talk about having inclusive language years ago, it means that we went through and changed all of our canons and policies to state that wherever it said he, would say thee or he or she or however it was worded. The clergyman would say clergy person or clergy, things like that. Just to make sure that everything is all consistent. So if anything ever happened, we don't run into the problem of, well, this part of the law says this, that hasn't been revised or updated since we passed this other law or this other bill, and this bill has been. So which one takes precedence over the other? Well, if we pass Bill C-15, it means that we will have the opportunity to make sure that all of our laws and all of our policies, everything is all consistent. And for any of you who have ever tried to raise children, you know what it's like if you don't have consistent rules in the house. If you have a rule one day, Dad says it's okay for little Johnny to stay up until 3 a.m. playing video games, and then Mom can't get him up on Monday morning to go to school because Johnny was up till 3 a.m. And Mom says, but that's not the house rule. House rule is video games turned off at 10. If the rule isn't being applied fairly and consistently, we have chaos. So essentially, my understanding is that Bill C-15 is simply encouraging, mandating that the government will go ahead and implement the rules, the context, the agreement that they made when they signed the UN Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as did most of the rest of the world. So not a big deal. Not a big deal. It needs to happen. Now, the problem at the moment seems to be that the conservative members of the Senate, because it made it through the House of Commons, and it's now with the upper house, and it's their turn to kick this around and take a look at it. And the conservative members are really trying to slow it down and sort of halt it so that it doesn't pass through before the summer session, before they close for summer session. That's not acceptable. That's not okay. This is important. We have acknowledged as Canadians, as members of this country together, that it is not all right that we have some kind of a two-tier system of rights for people. That if you were, 4 or 5 generations ago, came over on a boat from someplace else, that somehow you have more rights than people who 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 generations before were born here. That's not the way this country works, and we need to make sure that those gaps get filled in, that we straighten out our policies and our laws to make sure that if you are Indigenous in Canada, you are not somehow still held to some ancient and horrible, understanding of something that came about because of colonialism, which is a topic for another day. But we need to get this straightened out. It's about time. It's way past time. So if you are so inclined, and I really do encourage you to go to a website called faithinthedeclaration.ca. So Faith in the Declaration is all one word. There's no spaces in between. Faithinthedeclaration.ca, and it has there a template of an email or a letter you can send. It even has the email addresses of the Senate members and the people that we need to send it to. And I encourage you to do that and ask them. It's essentially asking that they would hurry up and pass this bill appropriately, not rushing it, but they've had it for a while. It is now sitting with them, and it's time for them to pass this bill that should have been passed in some form or another years ago. So please encourage people to do that. I think it's important because we are a country that is acknowledging that we are filled with immigrants, whether they're immigrants of yesterday, immigrants of 3 generations ago, immigrants of 5, 6, 7 generations ago. We are a people, we are a country that is built upon the foundation of many different peoples having come together, and we need to figure out how do we do that well. We didn't do it well in the first place, and we are recognizing that, and we are honoring that, and we are acknowledging that. And that is ongoing work that the country and our churches need to do. But we also need to recognize that our immigration is a part of who Canada is. And until the world changes drastically and people don't need to be considered refugees, when people don't need to feel that they can't be safe in their own country, Canada will still be a country that people look with hope to come and join. So we need to start this work now so that the work we do in the future has a solid foundation. We need to take care of our history. We need to fix that foundation so that it doesn't crumble. We have work to do, folks. So I encourage you to go and onto the website, faithinthedeclaration.ca. I'll type it into the notes, the little storyline about this YouTube video, and then go online, copy and paste that email, and send it off to your MPs, your MLAs, or your MPs, your Senate members, whoever you think should have that, to put a little pressure on them to say, enough with the silly games, Conservative senators. Let's get this going and let's move forward. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe. Please stay home. Wear your mask. Go for a walk. Stay socially distanced. Wave to say hello. But please stay safe. We need to stop the spread of this virus. God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael.